Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to this Dharma Friends of Israel talk. My name is Tomer, and soon we start a meeting with Ani Losang on the topic of the four immeasurables. I just want to remind you that this talk is being recorded to YouTube, and you can watch it there along with other previous recording of talks and teachings that we had. You can go to the Dharma Friends website, and you'll have the YouTube link there on the top. Also, if it's possible for you, suggest that we all turn on our cameras so that Anila can view us, we can view each other, to give us sort of a class atmosphere. I'll just say a couple of words, even though I'm sure all of us already know our teacher. Ani Losang, she's one of the Dharma Friends of Israel, one of the most closest and dedicated spiritual friends. She's been with us many years, coming to visit us time and again, even when the times are very difficult, such as today, such as at this last months and years. So we are incredibly fortunate to have Anila here as a friend, and I'd like to thank her on behalf of the Dharma Friend of Israel and everyone also here in this meeting. And I'll just conclude by reminding you that all our activities are done by volunteer and financed only by donations. So if you feel generous and open-hearted, you can practice Dana. I will put the link to the donation options in the chat below. So I wish us all a good and beneficial talk. Nila, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tomer. Well, hello, everybody. Tomer was saying that maybe most of you know me, but I have to say, most of you, I don't know, or some of you, I don't know, maybe, so anyway, so that's how it is. I think I don't know, but then sometimes, we might have met, or definitely we met in previous lives. I think I can talk like this because it's a Buddhist talk, and it's about the four immeasurables, which all of you might know. So it's sometimes it starts with love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. In general, I like to start with equanimity because that is the most difficult step. And then when that is done, everything becomes a little bit easier, maybe, or a little bit more genuine, because as it says, it's the four immeasurables, so it actually includes all beings. And that is definitely not easy, as you might have noticed. It's quite easy to think that we love a few people. It's quite easy to think that we have compassion for some people. And then in general, if we're not trained, when people don't behave, we want them to behave, then we kind of feel very justified to be angry at them, or maybe not angry, but at least not to show them any affection and having absolutely no wish to help them. Do you agree with this, or are we? Yeah, right. So then also the four immeasurables, it sounds very nice and it sounds very inspiring, but it's incredibly difficult to do because it goes totally against our habits. Because habitually, somebody who is good for me, then we call these people friend. Somebody who is not so good for me, we call these people enemy. And most of the beings on this planet, or even in this universe, we don't care about them at all because we don't know them. And in Buddhist terms, especially in Mahayana Buddhist, this is something that needs to change. Otherwise, this wonderful word or this wonderful mind of bodhicitta, being a Buddhist or taking refuge in order to be of benefit to all sentient beings, becomes pretty meaningless, right? Because if we're just biased towards the ones that are nice guys and leave most of the people kind of to the other side, And on top of it, we don't want others to be happy because they don't behave. We want them to behave. Then having this thought, I want to become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings, seems kind of, it doesn't make sense in a way. So how about we take refuge? Because I don't know if, as I said, I don't know all of you. I don't know if you have well, I guess you have a liking for Buddhism, otherwise you wouldn't be here, I think. But how serious you are about liberation and enlightenment, so I don't know. So in general, before you start any Buddhist practice, what is called, you take refuge. And so I would really like to do that with you. And then you can check from your own side what it means to you, taking refuge, when we say these words. I even have a version which is also written in Hebrew, and we say this every morning before we recite the Sutra of the Golden Light. It's a sutra that has been advised by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who is not with us anymore, that this is a sutra it is good to read when there is war. So we started to read the sutra at the beginning of the war. Now, of course, many people say, oh, you're reading some of this sutra every day, but the war is still going on. Well, Lama Zopa doesn't say it stops the war. Lama Zopa says it's just good to recite during war. And people say, well, it doesn't work. And then I say, this is why I continue, because it doesn't work yet. Because if we stop something, when we say, well, it doesn't work, then definitely nothing will change. So this is one thing in Buddhism. Also, you have to have a long breath. You need to have some perseverance, because otherwise if you start and then you think, oh, Buddhism, I practice Buddhism, that will make me feel good. Well, it's probably not like this. Maybe at the beginning, when you start to meditate, you start to sit down, your mind starts to calm down, and you feel a bit more spacious, and you feel a bit better. But, in the long run, then actually not that much will change. Now, I'm not saying, please don't misunderstand me, I am not saying it's not good just to meditate for the sake of meditation, or just to practice mindfulness. But when we talk about the four immeasurables, because it can have traps, and we might have to give up things that are just for my own happiness, then if the purpose why we are doing this is not clear, then again, it doesn't make that much sense. Okay, so from my side, because as some of you might know who have been in previous talks, I'm not so good at giving talks anymore. I have tons of notes. I look at them before the talk, then when the talk comes, I forgot about them. And also the more I look at my tons of notes, the more nervous I get, because I cannot retain them. So we'll just see how it goes. Also, giving, as you hear, I say a lot of because that gives me time to think what I should say next. So please don't get upset about this. So what we'll do, or what I'm used to do, is to give talk with groups when people are present, and then it's never been like a teaching, not even from the beginning, because also I never wanted to be a teacher, because I think many people are much more suited to that. But for me, it was always just an exchange of ideas. And so most of what I did with people is we discussed it, and we looked at all sides of whatever we discussed. And I think still now, for me, this is quite important. For me, it's good that I know what other people think also, because then I can also learn something. And so if we can, maybe if you just open your microphone and say what you want to say, the group is not too big, so it might be possible, I'm not sure, but maybe better you put it in the chat, and then I'll read it, and then You know, don't say just thank you very much, this is very helpful and all this, because every time I read the chat, I have to stop talking because I cannot do both at the same time. I know that people can do this at the same time. They can look at their notes and keep talking. So I'm always a bit, not jealous, but I admire them because I think, wow, this I am absolutely not capable of doing. Either I look at something that is written, then I have to stop talking or start, you know, like this, to fill the gap, or I cannot look at the notes. So it's like, I don't have this ability. So this is why also whatever I say, it comes from the head and it doesn't come from the notes. So it might be helpful, it might not be helpful. And also, this is Zoom, it's absolutely no problem. If you think, no, this is not what I wanted, you know, your time is precious, so please don't just stay just because you think, oh no, now I cannot go, she might be upset. I am not at all upset when people go. If me and Tomer are the only ones left, then we stop. Anyway, so that will be okay. So I would be quite happy that during the talk, if you give me your opinion or your side of the whole thing. It can go, I do realize it. It can go totally wrong, that somebody takes over and tells a long story and then everybody else gets upset. You know, this is the risk of life. What to do is like we don't know what it goes. It can go really, really good that we are able to open up and share our experiences and our failures in trying to practice these things, our success. So this is also when we talk about Sangha, we're not just sharing our successes. Sangha is especially there to share our failures so that we can learn and so that we can grow. So this is why I find it very helpful when people participate kind of actively and not just make me. But let's do some reflection. I prefer to call it reflection than meditation on taking refuge, right? So that's the text. You can see it also in Hebrew. It's thanks to Orit who did this, who put it together like this. So thank you very much. The word refuge, I learned thanks to the war. You can't say thanks to the war, but because of the war, I learned that refuge in Hebrew means miklat, which is somewhere where you feel safe. So because you understand that where you are, this is not safe. So I need to go somewhere else, or the mamad in the house or whatever. So when you take refuge in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, we need to understand, it doesn't need a war outside, but we need to understand the way I am now, it is not safe. Maybe it looks very safe in this life, because I'm born in Switzerland, or I live in Switzerland even now also. I lived in India quite a long time, so there it was more apparent that it's not a very safe place. But in Switzerland you can have the illusion, or you can think that it is very safe, right? So when the Buddha says samsara is not a safe place, in case I use word that you don't know what it means, then please let me know. But I will tell you immediately what samsara is. Being under the control of our unhelpful emotions. I never know how to call them, because also sometimes they're called afflictive emotions, sometimes they are called mental poisons, sometimes they're called delusions because they are creating an illusion, and then we have a whole list of them, which even if you're not Buddhist, I think many people would agree. So the first one is wrong views, like we project, our mind projects a reality outside which does appear to be real, but that's not true, because it is biased. It is biased by many factors in our own mind. And I think we all know that when our mind is happy, open, joyful, the world looks not totally different, but a little bit different than when you come out of the house, you just had a fight maybe with your husband or wife or children, you just listen to the news, you are worried, or somebody, you come out, your car was stolen or something like that, then the world would look a little bit different again. Do we agree on this? So that is one thing. So that's one thing that we don't understand, that the way I see the world is not exactly how the world is. Because why? Because somebody else sees it in a totally different way. If I would be a fly or a dog or I think dragonflies, they can detect, I don't know how many different colors, then the reality, what I call reality, would look totally different. But the thing is, we are totally convinced that what I see is true. We are totally convinced what I have an opinion about, this is true, and this is not just true, but this is right. So then we have we have heaps of conflicts. And this is why it is good to learn already that, yes, okay, there are different opinions, but mine is not necessarily right and the other opinion is wrong. It is just different. And when we start to understand this, then also our mind becomes a little bit broader and we might be able to listen. Look, I'm not talking about the situation here like the political situation, okay? So don't jump to that conclusion, because I am totally ignorant what one could do that would help, because I don't know, and I also think I have no right to have an opinion about what is happening in this country. So I'm not talking about that. So don't jump there, okay? I don't have any recipes how to solve all the problems that are happening at the moment. I'm just talking about normal daily life. How just this whole thing about when we have an opinion that we are 100% kind of convinced that this is the right way, not even noticing that also in my life, I change opinion, I change views. Okay? So as long as we are under the control of this, what is called wrong views, that also what our mind is projecting, we kind of separate ourselves from the world. We separate ourselves from the others, and then we start to make these categories. The friends, those are good for me, those that bring up a pleasant feeling in me. The people that, the strangers, they're usually called, even though they're not strangers, I might know them, but there's absolutely no emotion coming in me, nothing wakes up. I just totally indifferent. It's kind of a peaceful mind, but this is not what we want, because it's a mind that's totally dull and not interested in anything. So don't think that meditation should lead you there, by the way. When people sometimes are afraid of developing a calm mind because they think they will become indifferent, and we are very attached to our emotions. Yeah, we like to hype ourselves up, even sometimes when it's with anger or even with distress and fear and this and that. The mind goes to these thoughts that kind of, it's like when you have a fire and the fire is not going properly, you use a fan to make some wind, like this, to bring up the emotion. And it can be anything. Unfortunately, the fan for compassion and love and joy and equanimity, that fan is a little bit small, I think. Maybe those people who are trying to practice these 4 immeasurables, you know what I'm talking about. Can you see that the fan for what we call unhelpful emotions that distort reality, that only see one side, that this fan is huge, because we're attached to these very strong emotions, because it makes us come alive. Why do we feel alive with these very strong emotions of anger, distress, attachment, desire, jealousy, and all this? Because they narrow my reality. So the more narrow my mind becomes, the stronger I feel it. I never said it like this. I don't know if it's right, but I just notice it, because compassion, love, is very spacious. And if you then train on having love and compassion for all beings, then it becomes boundless. This is why also these four immeasurables are called sometimes the boundless attitudes, because it has no boundaries. And then we really need to look at that so that it doesn't become dangerous for you, because that's not what you want. So when we have these wrong views that there is a me, an I, a self that I need to protect and is more important than others and all this, then all these emotions, like especially desire, attachment, and anger and hatred, they are totally based on that. Or, making these categories: friend, stranger, and antagonist. I prefer to call it antagonist, because enemy is a very strong word, especially in a situation like this. Then again, you jump to conclusions there, which are not helpful. The antagonist, somebody that I don't want to be with, then we don't notice. This only comes from my side, from my point of view, how I see them. Now, in spiritual terms, or in Buddhist terms, because this is a Buddhist talk, I can talk Buddhism. A friend is somebody, you would call somebody a friend that you are very happy when that person is happy. Whether you are involved in their happiness, or whether you know them or you don't know them, it doesn't matter. That is what in Buddhist terms is called a friend. An antagonist is, in Buddhist terms, somebody that I don't want to be happy and somebody that I want to harm, not somebody that harms me. And a stranger is somebody that I'm absolutely not interested in, because they don't do anything for me. They have neither harmed me nor have they helped me. And we do go through the world with these views of thinking this is totally normal and it's totally right and this is totally the way it is. And we completely forget that from, you can have friends, like worldly term friends. You can have worldly term friends that all of a sudden you start to dislike them. You can have, in worldly terms, enemies that all of a sudden you start to be quite happy that they would spend time with them. And especially, all the strangers that we meet every day in the street, in the public transport, on the train, not so much when you're protected by your car, or walking in the street, all these strangers, with one second, they can turn that your mind makes them a friend or an enemy. Let's say you drop something, somebody helps you to pick it up. That stranger, all of a sudden, something wakes up when you see the person again, or even when the person is still present. Somebody that harms you, somebody takes your parking lot, because they're a better driver, they're quicker, they're faster. Have you ever noticed that you see an empty spot and you label it mine? And then in your deluded mind, it is as if you have bought that parking spot and there's your name on it. Then somebody comes who is much quicker than you and goes in, and you are convinced and your thoughts go in that direction. They took my parking spot. Has it ever happened to you? Yeah. And we think this is totally normal. I mean, it's so ridiculous. How can you call a spot, an empty spot that's been provided by the city or in a parking garage, how can you call it mine just because you saw it? But we're convinced it's right. And then if the person, then the whole story continues, right? So if the person comes out of the car and trips and maybe falls, you're even happy. Not like very happy, but a little bit happy. At least you're not sorry that the person fell. So I see some of you smiling and laughing. So this is very important when we discuss these things, because in order to make it not too heavy, we need to have humor to see how childish we react. And that's why it's good we take small situations so that we can look at them. We're not taking big situations of the war and this and that. This is too big, it's too much. But we train the mind with small things. It's a little bit like, okay, you were probably not going skiing, so this is not a good example, because in Switzerland I usually use the example, when we train for immeasurable, it's almost already like going on the black slope, or at least on the red one. You know slopes when you ski? So you have, I think it's the blue one first, that's very easy, almost no bumps on it. Then you have the green one, this is a little bit more difficult. Then you have the red one, and then you have the black one. So if you don't know how to ski and immediately you go on the black one, there's zero pleasure, because you're just frightened, you fall all the time, and you might hurt yourself. So that wouldn't be very skillful. So if you, with the mind training and these 4 immeasurables, or as Tech Chokla is teaching you, is talking about the 8 verses of mind transformation, this is really, when you have understood already that my not being happy, the situation I am in that I don't like, whatever it is, it's, yes, there is some other beings are involved, but these other beings are just the conditions. These other beings are not the cause. The cause for my having to encounter situations I find difficult, and I wouldn't choose those situations if I would have a choice. Why am I in these situations? Is because of my previous actions that I most probably don't recall, because they are from a past life. So this is the Buddhist view. Now, from your side, for the people that I don't know, you can accept it, you can not accept it. From my side, totally okay. Right, but this is the Buddhist view, that we have it in our hands actually to shape, maybe not so much the present, because whatever is already ripened, this has ripened, we cannot change it much. We can influence it, but not change it, but we can shape the future. And I don't know how many of you have seen the movie with His Holiness. The Dalai Lama was shown in the Cinematheque. It was Wednesday evening, and Adriana, you said today also, like 2:15, they show it again. It's very inspiring, and the whole message, quite long. He talks a lot, but what he keeps repeating again and again and again and again, it's our own individual responsibility to create a happy me, and then to create a happy world. And he talks about exchanging hatred and anger and wars and things like this for compassion. And he says it's very difficult and it takes a long time. So because it sounds so inspiring, and you see the Dalai Lama talk in a very relaxed way, and he doesn't go, he talks very fluently in English. I've never heard him talk so long in one go in English. So it's quite amazing. So, but it gives us the power to be able to look after our own mind. So we come back to, so again, those people who know me, they also know I start with one thing, then I go somewhere else, and then maybe I come back to what I started with, and maybe not. So going for refuge means already I have understood that as long as I am under the influence of these, what is called, sometimes called ignorance, I prefer it to call wrong views, because ignorance is sometimes just a not knowing, and not knowing is not so dangerous, but wrong views are dangerous. Like the wrong view that all my misery comes from other people, from other situation. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with what I did in the past. It has nothing to do with my reaction. That would be a wrong view. And that things kind of exist separate from my mind, like dualistic, that it's not my mind who is influencing what I see or shaping even what I see. That is also a wrong view. And then, of course, that I'm the center of the universe, or that there is an I or self in me that I call I or self, that is like a third entity, something that we add to body and mind. That the body and mind change, that they're impermanent, and then change moment by moment by moment by moment, especially with the body. You know, if you look at pictures of you 20 years ago, especially people my age, if I look at pictures of me like 50 years ago, and I was already grown up, but people, you know, they say, what, this is you? They don't even recognize me. Me, of course, I recognize myself because there is a seemingly permanent I or me that doesn't change. So then I know who I was or who I am. But so do you see what I mean? So body and mind, we know that it changes. This I, me, self, it seems to be permanent. And I know that if you hear that for the first time, you don't believe me, because you say, yeah, the I also changes, but it doesn't really. And you can only see that as you know, if you really investigate it, you know what exactly this feeling of I or me is, and you listen to this, to the teachings on emptiness and all this, and then you start to analyze. At the first sight, when you hear this, you say, what do you mean my I doesn't change? Of course it changes, but it doesn't. Okay, because anyway, I'm not going to go there, I hope. So, but because of this I or me, which doesn't have that much intelligence, I have to say, because it does a lot of, it makes us do a lot of things that already intellectually we know it's not good for me, but we still do it because we're so attached to this I or me. But then this I or me, because it has views, it has opinions, then whatever fits, whatever is I, or this I says, this is good, I get attached to. I exaggerate the positive sides of that thing. I don't want to see the negative sides. I don't see the shortcomings. I only see how wonderful it is to have it, or how wonderful it would be then, you know, if I'm not having it yet, then to have it in the future or whatever. And then we develop aversion and anger, or then with time even hatred, if we keep on the thing, for things that I have decided these are not good for me. Okay, and then we create actions with these, you know, it's like these emotions or kleshas, they are like something that is pushing us. They're like something that is driving us. They're giving us the energy to kind of the body and the speech, they come into action. And then we create actions, and then it leaves a potential on our mind. It's called the karmic seed, that then with time, when the conditions come, that will ripen as such. So when we have understood this process, and we have understood that, yes, I do not want to have any anger, I don't want to have any aversion, I don't want to have any desire and attachment, but I have it, then we start to understand I have to do something about this. It's only then. Yeah, just the idea that I don't want to have them, this is not going to make them go away. And when I understand it's with my own negative emotions, maybe I keep calling them like that, with my own negative emotions, I am shaping my future through my actions now, then we start to understand, we start to have some healthy fear, wanting to do something about them. And when we want to do something about something, we need to know what to do. So we need to learn it. So we need to learn it, for example, from the Buddha, who gave us the Dharma, which is the teaching, and from the Sangha, who is helping us to kind of to apply these methods that have been given by the Buddha. So the first thought, actually, when we take refuge is, I want to eliminate suffering, but especially the causes of suffering, which is my wrong views and all all the negative emotions that come with it. And I trust the methods of the Buddha that I will be, if I apply them. It's not the Buddha who will liberate you. The Buddha is just giving us these methods. If we apply them, your mind will transform. But as I said, it needs time. And luckily also the Dalai Lama says it will take a long time. So it's good that we give ourselves that time. If I apply these methods, something will change. And then we make the goal even higher. And then we think that I'm doing this, but not just for myself, but I'm doing this in order to benefit all sentient beings. And this is what it says here. So taking just these 4 lines, it has a lot of meaning in it. It means I know what I want. I want to get out of being under the control of my negative emotions. This is why I'm going for refuge. How do I do it? Because I'm taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I trust these methods. And then why am I doing this? To liberate myself? Yes, I have to become a Buddha. But why? Because I want to have the skills. I want to have the ability. And now we can go maybe, to somebody like the Dalai Lama, because I want to have the skills and the ability that he has to inspire so many sentient beings. And to inspire faith also in so many sentient beings that it does lie in our own hands to shape the future. So if you feel like saying these words, you can say them with me. We usually do it 3 times. And try to see if there are, mental factors. They have a job. So we have a main mind who is just perceiving things. Like, with our eyes, with our ears, with our tongue, with our tactile, and all this. But then we also have a mind who kind of shapes an opinion about the whole thing. Immediately, it comments on everything, good, bad, I want, I don't want. This goes so fast, we don't even notice it. And then these emotions come up. Now, I don't know why I say this. This is also what happens to me again and again and again. I tell you, my brain is going really soft. I don't even know why I started it. I have to become a Buddha, probably, because I want to benefit all sentient beings. Anyway, we'll say it. Maybe it will come back, maybe not. So, for the young people, if you get old enough, this will happen to you also. Now you have 2 possibilities. You can be really disturbed by this, or you can just have compassion for yourself and not push yourself, having to remember every little thing and get upset about the whole thing and all this. Other people will get upset with you because you forget things. And then you can just tell them, look, I am not doing this on purpose. And I can really tell you it is not pleasant, but that is the way it is. And then at least we don't make it worse, I think. So many people tell me what kind of brain training I should do. I don't want to do brain training. I want to get old and get used to it, that it will get worse, and I will forget more things. And even if I'm confused, it's okay. I can ask somebody, to let go of this kind of arrogance of being self-sufficient and being able to function all the time perfectly well and all this. I was telling the story of a friend of mine who has Alzheimer's or dementia. I know it's not the same thing. I don't know the difference. Also, it's not so important what the difference is for me. So she goes, for example, she goes into a shop and then she says, look, if I'm behaving in a strange way, it is because I have Alzheimer's or dementia. And she always has the address and telephone number with her. And she says, then if it happens, could you please call that number? And then somebody will come and collect me. Or she sees me and she says, I guess I should know you, but I don't know you. And that's it. And then the whole situation is clear. I say who I am, but it's not important that she knows who I am, because I'm there now with her, and I'm not the same person, and she's not the same person. And then we do something together. It is possible if we relax about it a little bit, and we're not so frightened, because no person who at the moment has dementia or has Alzheimer's planned it, wanted it, is happy about it. But we can really make it totally worse. And we can, we can still visit the people, and we can still spend time with them and answer the same question 700 times. So what? It's very easy. You don't have to think about a new topic, for example. We don't have to make it as bad as it goes, but maybe we come to taking refuge in this session before lunch. So, okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. So it's a very large mind. It's a huge goal that you want to go there. But one goal is already very natural. None of us wants to suffer. None of us wants to be harmed. And we already understood why we suffer. We already know that we have it in our own hand. We already know that we need help. We need guidance. Yeah. And now I know what I want to say. And I already know I want to be able to have the skills and, and to be able to inspire people to go on that same path. And for that, I have to become a Buddha. That's what I wanted to say, and what I forgot. Why I'm saying may I become a Buddha? Because that's also a very human, it's a very human thing that we have. If we can be of benefit and we're not biased, this is the best thing to do. We really love doing it. If we, to be, I don't like the word happy so much. I prefer joy. There's nothing more joyful than wanting to be of benefit to somebody. They accept us being of benefit to them, and that's it. And we're not expecting anything good in return. Or can you think of anything else that is better than that? I only see 5 of you now because I shared the screen. And these 5, they don't know. They're not showing any emotions here. So come on, guys. I need to feel you a little bit. Otherwise, I cannot talk to a screen. So we take refuge. Also, when you take refuge, there's a visualization that comes with it. So it is, we visualize all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, so the mind becomes very spacious. The more narrow our mind is, the more we don't see the whole picture. And then also when we take refuge, we put all sentient beings around us, all in human form. Again, it makes the mind very spacious. That's one result of this. The other result is, it's all of a sudden, I see myself, in this mass of beings. And then I think, I'm just a tiny, 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 tiny particle amongst all these beings who all want the same thing as me. They want to be happy and they don't want to suffer. And then my self-importance also disappears for a short time, a little bit, at least. And the less self-importance we have, and we all know it, the more spacious we become, the smaller the problem becomes, the more we maybe see a solution for the problem, but we also know I can solve that problem, then I will have another problem that comes up, and after that another one, and another one, and another one. And that is samsara. So I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, so this is at least when you are serious of what you're saying, then studying about the 4 immeasurables and then starting to practice them becomes logic kind of thing. If you don't have that attitude, it's not so logic, because as I'm saying, it is difficult because we are so used to follow attachment and aversion that it is, we have to go against the grain. We have to go against our habits, and that is incredibly difficult. And even though I don't want to have aversion for some people, I do have. And even though I see what I'm doing, luckily there are not many. So, but they decrease and decrease and decrease. It was before I started practicing, like 30, 40 years ago, 35 years ago, this was my biggest problem. There were people who would just turn up in my field of vision, and I disliked them. And I felt like an idiot because they didn't even give me a kind of a good reason not liking them. And so I avoided them, because also I didn't want to hurt them, because I started to understand how hurtful I can be with my mind that is averse. It didn't make me happy. Having aversion for somebody, that's about the worst you can have. And then you know how I start working with this? I used my arrogance, because I also have arrogance. So I used my arrogance by thinking, by understanding, these people have incredible power over me. Every time they turn up, they destroy my peace of mind. I don't want to give them that power. So you see, sometimes even negative emotions, if you use it for a goal that is not just self-concerned, can be of benefit. So then again, when we talk about positive emotions, negative emotions, be careful. It is not just black and white, right? This is why it's good to discuss it. It's good to analyze it. It's good to do what it does to us. Okay, so we will start anyway with the four immeasurables. It is usually called the immune system for the mind, because when these positive states of mind, now I'm calling them positive states of mind, when they are gone, when they develop, then our immune system against anger, and so anger and cruelty and jealousy and indifference, they become very strong. At the moment, how should I call them? Should I call them every time all four of them? So at the moment, anger, cruelty, jealousy, and indifference are very strong and are very tempting. We don't need to tell them to come up. They just come up by themselves. So then and our antidote towards them are very, very small and very weak. So we need to strengthen these antidotes so that they can go against. Geshe Sherab at one point he said, our negative emotions, they are as strong as a forest fire. And then we come with a cup of water, which is our antidotes of Dharma knowledge and love and compassion and joy and equanimity. It's like a cup of water, and we pour it on the fire, the forest fire, and then we go, oh, it doesn't work, the fire is still going. Yeah, so that's what we need to do. We need to strengthen these positive emotions. Okay, so this, I have a feeling, I don't know, I have this text since many, many years. I always use it because I quite like it, because it's quite kind of simple and straightforward. And also, I don't even know where I have it from, probably from the internet somewhere. So don't think I came up with this. Absolutely not. And for me, it sounds like Thich Nhat Hanh. So it's most probably from Thich Nhat Hanh, I don't know, but also Thich Nhat Hanh relies on the Buddha. So actually Thich Nhat Hanh, I think he talks like the Buddha, because he talks to Rahula. I think Rahula is his son. So I think it's a teaching of the Buddha for Rahula, which is from the Buddha for Rahula, which is his son, which then, spread everywhere. But I'm not sure. So these four immeasurables. So this first one is, he talks about the four first, right? So, Rahula, practice loving kindness to overcome anger. Loving kindness has the capacity to bring happiness to others without demanding anything in return. Practice compassion to overcome cruelty. Compassion has the capacity to remove the suffering of others without expecting anything in return. Already there, is like, blah. This is very difficult. But the thing is, why this is so difficult? Because we don't see our expectations. If we are very kind to somebody, then of course we expect them to be kind to us, isn't it? If then they stop to be kind to us, that's it, they stop being friends. Unless you really love them, unless you really have love for them. But yeah, it's very difficult. And it's not what the world is doing. So what we're doing here goes totally against worldly views and worldly habits or whatever, without one expecting anything in return. Why is it that we don't need to expect anything in return? Okay, maybe we do some short reflection. First on love and then on compassion. Okay, and then maybe you can find the answer yourself. Why we don't need anything in return. Okay, so sit in a comfortable way. If you want, close your eyes. And of course, our love is mixed with attachment, but at the moment it's good enough because otherwise it's very difficult. But you could try to find somebody that you are not attached to, but that you have an open heart towards that person. You don't need to possess the person doesn't need to acknowledge how wonderful you are or whatever. But sometimes it's also good at the beginning, trophy. At the beginning it is, it's okay to be aware. Most of our love is mixed with attachment, and definitely when we come to compassion, then it's mixed with attachment, and then it's very painful. Yeah. So, but think about somebody that you like to meet the person, you like to spend time with the person. It's okay. It can be somebody from your family, somebody. But if it's somebody from your family, you already see the pain in it. The fear that something will happen to them, the fear that they will reject me, maybe if it's family, if it's children or grandchildren or whatever, we need to be loved, all of this. Maybe better take somebody who is a bit more neutral, somebody that you just also like is good enough. And just see, how do you feel when you think about this person? Would you call that a good feeling? If it's mixed with attachment, usually it's not so good because mixed with fear that something will happen to them. This is what attached love is doing. Creates a lot of suffering. But anyway, think about the person, and you call the person and you ask the person, how are you? And the person says, wow, today I'm really well. Really imagine the situation and look at the feeling in your chest. This is what is called loving kindness. It's as simple as that. You are happy when you hear that the person is well. You don't need anything else. The person just needs to tell you, I am well. This is loving kindness without attachment. You don't need to hear, oh, it's thanks to you that I feel so well. Oh, you helped me so much. You are so wonderful. You don't need to hear it. If your heart is open towards a person, it is enough to know that the person is well. It's as simple as that. So what more do you need? When the expectation comes, how the person should behave, how the person should be, then the suffering starts. So that's love. That's loving kindness. Then now you think about the same person. You call, you ask, how are you? And then the person says, today I am not so well. Again, look at your heart. Immediately there is interest. Immediately you want to know what's wrong with you. The interest is sometimes for us too big, wanting to do something to help them, but we don't have the capacity. And then again, suffering starts. It's compassion paired with attachment again. So very often we cannot help. But we can keep our heart open. And just by thinking, may somebody else be able to help them. If it's not us. But maybe the person is not well because you have the skills to help them. And then that wish to be of help will make you move out of the house and go and see them and do whatever you can. So maybe remember such a situation. Somebody asked for help. You were able to give the help. The person was able to receive the help, and that's it. Really remember something that you were able to do. How does it make you feel? Do you need acknowledgement? Do you need that the person tells you how wonderful you are? Or is the feeling that the action that came out of compassion, the wish to free somebody from suffering, and you had the skills, kind of the memory that comes from that occasion, is that maybe enough? Is that maybe what you could call a good feeling that we run after so much? Or what? You see, having compassion when we can't help, this is terrible. It makes us suffer. And in German, we have these two words that are very helpful. We have Mitleid and we have Mitgefühl. So Mitleid is like you suffer with the other person, but there is nothing you can do. And so actually, it's not only it's not helpful, it can be actually harmful. But it's an attitude that has developed. We want to be of help. We want to be of benefit, but we don't have the skills. So this is why when we take refuge, also we say, in order to be of benefit to others, I want to become a Buddha. In order to become a Buddha, I have to apply these methods. And actually in Buddhism, we only call it compassion when we know the cause and we know if there is a cause, the cause can end. And the cause can be very far behind, it's karma. We can end our negative emotions, but it will just take a long time. But as long as we have anger and cruelty and jealousy and indifference and all these kinds of things, we will create karma that we encounter situations that we don't like. As long as we are under the control of these negative emotions, we create more and more negative karma. So what do you think? Can we do some sharing maybe here with, when it says love is without, love is then without wanting, you are happy when somebody is happy without wanting anything in return. Compassion is you help if you can help. There's no point wanting to help if you don't have the skills to help. Sometimes you think, oh, Buddhism, then we have compassion, so at all costs I need to help. But sometimes it's also good to say, I wish I could help, but I don't know. And we relax, right? So, so helping without anything in return. How does it make you feel if you remember these actions? You can put it in the chat, you can open your mic. I think the group is small enough just to say also. Adriana.
Sometimes just the feeling that you want to help, just being there, just like, holding the hand, look at the eyes, I think it's enough. We don't have all the power to resolve all the problems, either mental or physical, but just to be and to feel this, this gratitude that I can just be there, even if I can't solve the problem.
Right.
I think it's quite nice.
It's quite nice. It's good what you're saying. Just to be there, even just accepting the situation and understanding there's nothing I can do, but what I can do is to be there.
Yeah.
And to listen without kind of
giving advices.
Yeah, like I wanted to say, without strangling the person with my advice what they should do. This is what we do. Has it ever happened to you? Somebody asks you, how are you? And you say how you are. And then they start to give you advice. You didn't even ask for it. Or the other thing also, this is the mid-light, because your suffering reminds them of their suffering. And all of a sudden they start to tell you what's going on with them. And of course, when they tell you what's going on with them, it is always much bigger with what is going on with you. And we also do it, right? Because why? Because we think, oh, if I tell the person the story that it could be much worse, it would make them feel better. That's the hope. So when we start to tell the person, but hey, look, this, I had this and this and this and this. When I had quite a lot of broken bones, and then you walk around with casts or bandages or whatever. I never heard so many stories of broken bones from total strangers in the bus than when I was walking around with crutches or with, the hand and all these kind of things. But as Adriana is saying, we have to be sometimes to be content just with an open heart, even though it hurts, but to be present. But this is also one of the things that we are afraid of compassion, that we think, if I can't help, it hurts too much. I have to do something about this, isn't it? So of course, if you generate bodhicitta and you say, I want to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings, that's good enough. Because as a Buddha, like somebody, a human being like the Dalai Lama, who has lost his country through the Chinese, who has absolutely no hatred for the Chinese, and look how he served, how he became world famous. And he can influence, as long as when he is present, with his being there, he can influence so many beings to be happy and to be helpful at the moment. To be happy, because when our mind is happy, we don't want to do anything negative. But when we are able to help, because it also happens, can be small things, somebody has lost the key and we found them. Somebody is sick and we go and cook for them. Things that we can do when you remember these actions. If you are expecting something in return, what happens?
It's not a pure heart that does it. and you like say, I cooked for you. Oh, you didn't thank me enough or something like this. So it's just, it's nursing the bad wolf inside you.
It makes us suffer. It spoils the good feeling of having been able to help. Because again, if maybe we can do another short reflection here, because I really would like, sometimes people just want someone to listen to them. Yeah, that's also fine. And that's very easy. This is very easy. You just have to be there actively. Because if you go like, yeah, and your mind is totally somewhere else, this is not what is called listening, right? But maybe we do just a short reflection, because, I'm not very good at teaching theory here. But what I would like to do with examples is that you start feeling, experiencing, because Buddhism for me is an experiential vehicle. Of course, it is very intellectual also, and you can study all the texts about emptiness and compassion and all this. But if you don't feel it, if you don't experience it, if you don't practice it, if you don't put these things into practice, you will not get to know your negative emotions in a helpful way, because you will feel your negative emotions, but you will already have the antidotes, right? Because it's, if we don't have any antidotes, and by the way, emptiness is the best antidote. So I'm not saying you shouldn't study emptiness. Emptiness is the best antidote for our painful feelings here. But if we just have it in the head and it doesn't go in the heart, for me, it doesn't serve the purpose. And for this whole thing to go in the heart also, you don't even have to take refuge. You don't even have to be a Buddhist. You just have to see it. We have to see our wrong views. We have to see our expectations. And then, because we're still talking about equanimity, or that's what I wanted to do this morning, we have to see that we're all the same. Okay, so again, if you can, close your eyes. And then you picture 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, people that you call my friends. And then you feel the good feeling that comes up, open heart, they're my friends. We're not thinking spontaneously how lucky I am that they allow me to like them. Again, the I jumps in and goes, oh, my friends, they like me. I must be a wonderful person, isn't it? We're not thinking this, we're not doing this consciously. If we would think this consciously, we would see how ridiculous we are. And now we're trying to see the expectations. And now this will be painful. All of a sudden, you need help with something that the person could give you that help, but she says, oh no, I don't have time. I need to go to the movies. It's the Dalai Lama in the movies, let's say Buddhists, okay? And who knows if I can ever see this movie again, but you would need that person to pick up the kids or the grandchildren from the kindergarten. And says, no, I have to go to the movie. How would you feel? Would you understand that for this person that you call my friend, the movie is more important than your children and your grandchildren? Would you be totally forgiving? Maybe. Because logically, why would this person be interested in your children and your grandchildren? But we expect that they are interested, isn't it? Or they fulfill my needs. What happens when they're unkind to you? What happens when they don't share your views anymore? What happens when they even turn against you, try to convince you of their views? It's painful, isn't it? But why is it painful? Because your love for them, your so-called love for them has gone. Because why? Because you had all these unspoken and unseen expectations. The moment I decide that you are my friend, you have to fulfill my needs. You have to respect me, you have to accept me the way I am, you have to be there for me if you can, isn't it? This is all unseen, unnoticed, but it's there. So we take it up, we take it to the surface. You know, it is quite difficult for somebody to harm you on such a deep level mentally than somebody that you have called a friend, a worldly friend, because you have expectations. Now you turn the whole thing around. You also know there are people who call you, you are my friend, isn't it? Okay, so they most probably have the same expectations than you have. Now the big question, are you ready to fulfill their expectations? Just to make them happy because I am their friend? Okay, maybe you saw something. Did you see something? How expectations are painful. Now, you know, the big question is really, are we have expectations towards our friends. Maybe a nod is enough. Do we have expectations to people that we call, you are my friend? Yeah, and we don't even ask them, are you okay that you are my friend? You know, this happened to me at one point. It was during the teachings of His Holiness in Europe, and I was still living in India. So that was the perfect occasion to kind of liaise people to bring things backwards and forwards. I don't know if any of you have gone backwards and forwards from India. You know, when you do that, you go backwards and forwards from India, more than half of your suitcase is stuffed with stuff that doesn't belong to you. But you take something to bring to somebody else, or you take something from India to bring somebody in Europe. So during the teachings of the Dalai Lama, this is the perfect occasion. So, and because I know so many people also. And then somebody that I knew from a course comes with crutches, and she has somebody with her, and she says, oh, hello, Anirita, and this and that, so happy to see you, and said, yeah, fine. Oh, you broke your leg, I'm sorry. I have to say I wasn't so interested in her because I saw somebody else that I was looking for, and so I ran away. A few weeks later, I got a phone call from her saying, oh, you hurt me so much. And I was very surprised. And I thought, what do you mean? When? What? She said, well, in the teachings in Hamburg, then I was there, and I thought you would come with me into the hall. And I said, but you had somebody with you to help you. She said, yeah, but you are my friend. And I thought, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Sorry, you know. So we can hurt people in such a deep way, or we can get hurt in such a deep way when we have all these expectations. right? So now the question is, the thing is also, we all have needs. We have them also unseen, unnoticed, but we have them. We want to be respected. We want to be accepted the way we are. We don't want, if I gain weight or if I lose weight or whatever, we don't want this to be the reason that people like us, although we're very concerned about it, isn't it? Yes or no? Yeah, our looks, how we look like this, we have a few more wrinkles in the face and all that. So we all have these needs from others. But expecting that others fulfill these needs is very dangerous. We open ourselves up to being hurt. Whereas what we could do, which is very fulfilling, is to fulfill the needs of others. This is something we could do. What do you think? Then we would practice these four immeasurables. It doesn't mean you have to give up your life and you're only there for others. It doesn't mean that. But just to notice our own needs, and then as much as we can, trying to fulfill these needs of respect, accepting them, listening to them when they want to tell us something and all that, and not contradicting them or not telling them my view or my advice or whatever. That would be a start. That would be a beginning. What do you think? And this is best to do with strangers first. Because then with the strangers, there's not so much self-interest there yet. Yeah, because we do, people are very close. When we do that, then there's a lot of self-interest involved. Would you like to say something, or would you like to ask something? You can also ask questions. You can put them in the chat. Yeah?
Can I say something?
Yes, please. That's, yeah.
So what crossed my mind when you talk about the friend, about the expectations, it comes to my head that usually, or like I think all the time, what we mean, the definition of the word itself tells a lot for ourselves what are our expectations. Like if we say friend, and then we say, okay, a friend is like that, and a friend is like that, or maybe what you say, an enemy, or someone you don't like. This is like, this is what you expect for him or not expect for him. And then when I'm looking on that, then I realize my definition of a friend, it's mostly what I expect. And when I am expecting someone to be a friend in a certain criteria, then it's what brings to me the attachment or the love or anything else. It's all inside the definition of our terms.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's very good, because this is why when I said at the beginning, I said in worldly terms, we call somebody a friend when we have all these expectations, and maybe they do fulfill them sometimes, and when they don't, then finished friend. And in terms of enemy is like somebody that is not good for me or harms me or dislikes me. In terms of Buddhism, it's not that Buddhists don't have friend, but when you say this person is my friend, it means you wish them well. Right? When you say this person is my enemy, it doesn't mean they wish me like bad things. It means that I want to harm them. That is an enemy. Right? That's in Buddhist terms. Is that clear? But in worldly terms, it's different. It's like somebody who wants to harm me is an enemy. What I do with them, that doesn't matter anything. So, and somebody that is my friend, then this is somebody who is good to me. So this is why when they say a bodhisattva has no enemies, bodhisattva is somebody who wants to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all but sentient beings. So it says a bodhisattva is somebody who has no enemies. It doesn't mean that bodhisattvas doesn't have people in their lives that dislike them. It means that they don't wish harm on anybody. And that's a changing of attitude. So there was something in the chat saying that, but isn't always wanting to please people something negative? Why would it be negative? I don't see. If you do it for your own sake, again, full of expectations that they should be kind to you, then of course it becomes again, a cause for suffering. But if you do it to make them happy, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with making other people happy? How can that be negative? The person who asked the question, you want to answer me?
Yes, because you don't do what you want. You do and you sometimes please people and you are going against your personal integrity.
Well, if somebody kind of asks me to do something for them that would make them happy, which is a negative action or something like this, then of course, you use your wisdom also. But it's like you say, I don't do what I want. But if I want to make people happy and I do it, then I do what I want. But if we do it because we want them to like us and we want them to acknowledge us or whatever, then of course it becomes a source for suffering. But to give up a little bit of what I want, I wanted to go to the movies, but the person prefers to go to the beach. Okay, let's go to the beach. What's wrong with that? And then if you really love the person and you see that the person is very happy at the beach, then you're also happy. No? I think that's what love is all about. And then the movie is not so important anymore. Or this whole thing, the situation, there is a movie that you really wanted to see, no matter how, spiritual, Dalai Lama, blah, blah, very important. And there is a friend who says, can you pick up the kids from the kindergarten because I'm not well? I mean, I would let go of the movie immediately. I would be so happy to be able to give this person the help that she needs at the moment, even though I wanted to go to the movies. Isn't that kind of a nice human thing to do, to give up on what you want in order to make somebody happy? Did I get something wrong here? Do I only, is it happiness only when I can do what I want to do? Well, then we become very lonely people. I live alone. I have no partner, no children, no cats, no dogs. I have a lot of freedom to do whatever I want to do. Most of my time, the happiest I am when I'm somewhere where I can be of benefit. I feel it. When they're very busy, I cook. They're very busy, I clean for them. They're very this, they're very that. And it's things that I know how to do. I know how to cook, I know how to clean, I know how to iron. This is the best time. But I decided to do that. Then when I live somewhere totally alone, I get bored. I get totally bored. So I think it is through these practices that slowly, even a very selfish person like me, all of a sudden is happier to be of benefit, no matter how simple it is, to somebody else. That I feel, for me, you can say, this, or as the Dalai Lama says, if you want to be selfish, be wisely selfish and be more concerned about the happiness of others, because you will have a different happiness. If you decide, but you need to decide it, this is the thing. Sometimes we feel obliged to do something that somebody is expecting from us. Then, as Sadirano was saying, it's not pure heart also. We do it out of duty, but we don't really want to. Now, again, it doesn't mean then you say, no, I'm not going to do it. Then it means you change your attitude. you kind of, then you apply emptiness to say, okay, what is it in me that I don't want to do what this person wants me to do now? And then we examine. And then we don't find this I or me or self, if you know how to do the meditation. Yeah. And then, we take a lot of thoughts in order to change these attitudes. We need to take a lot of intelligence into it. Karma, right? We're all the same. Everybody wants happiness. I'm dependent on others for my happiness and all this. And then slowly, this ego-centered attitude will become more loose and not so fixed anymore, that at all costs I must have what I want. And you change what you want. In order for I want others to make me happy, you change to I want to make others happy. It's change of attitude. That's the purpose of a Buddha. The Buddha is there to lead and guide all sentient beings out of suffering and into happiness. And that is love, basically. Yeah, we will come to that in the afternoon when we meditate on these things. Is that clear? Does it answer your question, Ayelet? But you're right. It's a very good question. It's really good to ask that. When we are fulfilling the needs of somebody else, we have to check, why do I do this? So if we say, it's very easy to talk about this, but then to do it, to really do it so that your attitude changes is incredibly difficult. If you then really try to do that. But we can start, and slowly, then maybe it becomes more easy to do. So, then again, it can have a total trap. I just thought about it. If I have this attitude going around in the world, I want to make other people happy, and they don't want to be made happy by me, then what? Then again, I get miserable. Isn't it? So we have to be careful there. So at the beginning, because that's also maybe with Westerners, that is also very often a little bit, or not a little bit, a huge hindrance. When we hear these things, we want to act upon them. And we want to act upon them without having transformed the mind. So the attitude is not there yet. The self-cherishing is still very, very, very strong. And then, as I said, we do it out of duty or whatever. If you at least do it out of an experiment, I want to try this out. I want to see how it works. But if it comes out of duty, again, some people, they don't want to talk to you. Some people, they don't want to see you. Some people, no matter what you do, the only thing that makes them happy is to get out of their way. And then you do that when you feel it. You see, we feel that sometimes people have aversion for us, isn't it? No? I can bring you people who don't like me. Absolutely no problem. There are not so many, but still, yeah? Then what's the best way to make them happy? Now again, it's so, on one hand, it's very easy because we are all, or most of us, or all of us, we function the same way. When you have aversion for somebody, what is the best favor they can do to you? How can they make you happy when you feel aversion towards them?
Disappear.
Yes, exactly. That's very easy. Without feeling guilty, without feeling depressed, without feeling whatever. And this can be an attitude. You see, we can get out of their way out of anger. Oh, they don't like me. I don't want to have anything to do with them anymore. Creates negative karma because it's the mind state that creates the karma. It's not the action, by the way. Yeah. And if I say I'm getting out of their way, because then they feel more relaxed, they're more happy, they're more at peace, their negative emotions are not there. So I do it in order to do them a favor. Now, that can be totally fake, but then it's you fake it till you make it, and then it becomes genuine. Okay? Okay. So anyway, we continue a little bit like this with daily situations in the afternoon, and then we meditate on those things. So you have an experience, and I just want to finish the other two. So we'll talk about all three in the afternoon. So we had loving kindness and compassion. We tried to feel it a bit. We felt that actually it's good for us if it's not mixed with attachment, because especially compassion, if it's mixed with attachment and with our own inability to be of help, it is so painful. Then it really becomes Mitleid, which means suffering with the other. Mitgefühl is, you know how the other person feels, but you also have compassion for yourself. You know that you cannot help. And it's not, you know, it is not having a cold heart when you are not kind of depressed when somebody else is suffering. We think that it's a sign of not being interested and not having compassion if we don't feel with the other, or if we don't suffer with the other. Not at all. You know, a doctor can have a lot of compassion for his patient, but he's not depressed when the patient is sick and they can't even help him. He still tries to help, but he remains calm. So very often we don't know what compassion is. You know, we really compare it with either totally distant, kind of, oh, I'm glad I'm not in his or her situation. It's too distant, because we don't understand we can be in the same situation. Too close is, oh, you know, I cannot help him. And then we suffer even more than the person who suffers. You know, when we suffer ourselves, you know, we recognize it, we try to do something about it, we can do something about it, it's great. We cannot do something about it, we accept. That's what a wise person is doing. But if it's not your suffering when you have compassion for somebody else, you cannot react in that way, because you're too mixed up with what is going on at the moment. Yeah. But very often, you know, people think that, but I have to suffer now, because otherwise it seems as if I don't love the person. So for us, that's love, when you suffer with the other person, when the person is suffering. And it's a huge habit that we have. Many people react like this. Yeah. So then we also, but in order also to counteract, we will look in the afternoon how these emotions can become a trap, and how they can be counteracted by one of the others, right? So that's also when we'll do this afternoon. So practice sympathetic joy to overcome hatred. Sympathetic joy arises when one rejoices over the happiness of others and wishes others well-being and success. So in general, the joy, the mental factor of joy comes knowing that we all have the potential, all our minds have the potential to be well, because we have this natural purity that sometimes is very hidden, but it can be brought up. And also then we're not just thinking about this life. Of course, when you think about this life, somebody has cancer and they have to die, and then, you know, we don't see the potential they have to heal. When we talk about every mind has the potential to be whole, to be free from under the control of negative emotions, and to be free from acting them out, then we have to think of more than one lifetimes, of course, you know. The potential for total mental well-being is in everybody's mind. Maybe not possible to bring it out in this life, but the potential is always there, because that's the nature of the mind, to be totally pure and totally well. And then this is equanimity, is the last one. Practice non-attachment to overcome prejudice. Non-attachment is the way of looking at all things openly and equally. That is because that is. Myself and others are not separate. Do not reject one thing only to chase after another. I call these the four immeasurables. Practice them and you will become a refreshing source of vitality and happiness for others. You know, the Buddha doesn't say you have to be depressed in order to be of benefit to others. You have to be angry in order to be of benefit to others. There's none of this in the Buddha's teachings. But practice these four immeasurables, but practice them in a way that you don't mistake them for something else. And this is what we'll look at in the afternoon, because these four beautiful mental attitudes have what is called four near enemies. They have four, which is totally the opposite. We talked a little bit about them: anger, cruelty, jealousy, and indifference. This is the opposite. But they also have something which is called near enemy. So that's what we'll look at this afternoon. Okay? Okay. So then when you eat your lunch, in case, well, for you it's too early because you probably had breakfast. I didn't have breakfast, so I will have lunch. Before you eat your lunch, try to see how many beings are involved in making it possible for you to eat this food. It's the whole universe, including Mother Earth, the wind, the sun, and the water. I don't know if they have minds, but if they go out of control, as they do now, we will suffer, I tell you. And then we create gratitude, and we say thank you. And we're not going, this is my food, you know. This is very easy for me, because here I always get fed. It is very rare that I can say, this is my food, I made it, or I bought it, because people are so kind to feed me, right? So then the gratitude is there, because I understand it's not my food. Yeah, so then it doesn't matter what you eat. Everything is delicious when you have an attitude like this. Because you see, if we give ourselves the choice, it is this which I don't like so much, or that which I like very much, then also the food will not, yeah? It's not a good choice we give ourselves. If we give ourselves the choice, it is either this or nothing. Everything is okay. You see, we can use our thoughts to create so much more happiness in our daily life. But very often, habitually, tendencies, we make the wrong choice. And then it's, oh, this I don't like so much. Oh, I would rather have that one. And then, you know, then the food also we forget. The food is to nourish the body. It's not to create happiness, by the way. You might be surprised, but that's not the purpose of food. The purpose of food is to keep us alive. But we have changed the purpose, and we want to, you know, create happiness with the food. We destroy the planet because we create too much food, too many differences, too many varieties, too many this and that. Why? Because we still think the food is a cause for happiness. And we have to search further and further and further, because the happiness never comes. Okay? So please enjoy your food. It is your duty to enjoy your food, because many people have worked very hard to produce the food, to transport it, to sell it, to look after it, to cook it, and so on. So please enjoy. You have no right not to enjoy your food. And I see you again at 1 o'clock. Okay? Maybe. If not,
Thank you. Thank you.
enjoy the afternoon.
Bon appétit.
Bon
Thank you,
appetit.
Anila. See you.
Bye-bye.